ladies and gentlemen, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we're back like we never left. What's going on, Miss Illy? How you feeling?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. You know me, I'm always going through something, but it's always good to get back live, talk to the people, get some feedback on what's been going on. I have tons in my head to like spill out, but I'm trying to like kind of hold back my energy just because, if not, I'll just be rambling all over the place. But it's good to sit down with somebody that we can kick it with and just talk on a couple of topics. Today, I thought of some couple of really interesting topics, and I know you have some opinions on them. We have the first one. I want to go in order, so let's go in. Because I saw a couple of things. I read a couple of things on them. It's about engagement, about shacking up, basically living together, and prenuptial agreements. So I want to start with you get engaged to a man. How long is too long? What do you think is a right amount of time for an engagement? Obviously, we're gonna gloss over the fact that this individual, it works individually. Some couples could be short, some couples be long. I'm more so interested in what do you think needs to be established in a length of time that somebody's engaged that wasn't maybe established while they were in a relationship? Because you take it to the next level, that literally means there's a next level. And in that next level, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What are you now maybe getting to know? What do you want to see? What are you looking out for to make sure that that engagement transitions into that third step, which is the marriage? So what are you looking for?
It's so funny because, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I would have had a different response. But I personally feel like if we're getting engaged, we should have already covered those things that you would think would be typical to cover within the engagement. Because if we haven't, why are we agreeing to move on to that next step? But that's when you got to start. If you haven't, that's when you have to start talking for real about the future. What are your plans and goals for the next few years? How are you guys going to divvy up household expenses, household responsibilities, child rearing? If religion is an issue, I think all of those things that start to come into play when life gets real, if you haven't already addressed it, that's the time to address it so that before you start sending out the invitations.
Right. That's what I was thinking. I was having thoughts on it, and I was like, that's why I put in the whole part about living together. There's things that you know about somebody when you've been dating. And there's whether it's a year, 2 years, and there's that next level. It's something about maybe the commitment part of it, or maybe I don't want to see the finality, but it's like for men, I know it's kind of like, okay, it's official. It's different. It's definitely different than dating. I don't care what opinion anybody else has, but the reality of it is, for me, it's really like a whole nother level of commitment. And I almost think like there has to be like another level of getting to know each other. There has to be another level of, and I don't mean that going to level, because obviously you're going to get to know each other emotionally. You're going to fall in love, all those things. But there's some things that I want to see, like as in, how do you deal with pressure? Because marriage isn't all roses. It isn't all beautiful. Sometimes we're going to hit some hurdles. So I kind of see how you're going to I want to see how you deal with pressure. I want to see how you deal with my family. Okay, because it's the difference between being the girlfriend and showing up for dinner and showing up for holidays, as opposed to being now an active member of my family, where you're not. You're now an active member of my family. How do you interact with my family on a regular basis?
But how would that differ from being a girlfriend? Because I'm still the same person. It's just that my role in your life is different, not necessarily in theirs.
Believe it or not.
I feel and agree with some of the things you're saying, but I just feel like, you should have kind of had an idea about that prior to the engagement.
I'll take it with me, for instance, right? Like, my family loves my girl. They know she's amazing, right? But they also know me, right? And they know that the day I make that decision and the day I take that step, it's like, oh shit, like this is this is like, whoa, okay, so now almost like they have to fix their mind around the fact that, wow, we saw Mike take that step. You know what I mean? Like, I can't speak for women, but it's like they know me. They know I've been in long relationships. I've been with women, and never once have I ever been like, I'm going to get married. You know what I mean? Outside of, I was married once, but they've never seen me be like, I'm actively looking to, I want to marry her. Now it's more like they'll see it and they'll be like, oh shit. And it's more like an adjustment. So I guess based on what we're saying, a lot of the things that leading up to an engagement, a lot of the things that I'm talking about should have been handled before you got to being engaged. If you haven't handled those things, they shouldn't be being engaged. So we're gonna move on to the next topic because I think you addressed it, and even in my head, even when I was trying to come back at you, I'm realizing you're absolutely right. By the time you get engaged, you make that commitment, there should be no difference when you move into the engagement.
Yeah, now it should be a planning stage. Like I know her thoughts and opinions and and stuff, but now that we're making it official, now let's plan. And as far as the family, like they may be the ones that have to adjust because I know sometimes.
Right.
And sisters like, okay, here's just another little chick he's bringing home, but it's like now it's for real, so move over, let her help with the rice or whatever the hell we're doing, and make room. And so I think it's really more so the family that really makes the biggest adjustment.
Here's another place, like for instance my home where I live. This is my house, right now, while she's my girlfriend, I guess my mom can come, my sisters can come. And whenever they're here, they kind of take over and do their thing in the kitchen, move stuff around, and everything's okay, right? I almost feel like
live together though, right? She just comes to visit.
Yeah, she just comes to visit. Once we step into, let's say, an engagement, I believe those areas are off limits. Now, whether it's mom, sisters, anybody else, they can't just come into this house and move stuff around and change it and put it over here. Now they literally have to consult with her on like, hey, look, where do you put this? What do you do with this? Or should I move this? It's no longer. It's almost like before engagement, she's the girlfriend. I kind of feel like my sisters and my mom could still come here. They could still help me out with stuff. Once we transition into like the engagement, I almost feel like I have to stop them. Like, all right, no, this is her domain now. You know what I mean? Like, no, this is her domain, and start training them.
Together, that kind of hopefully would come a little naturally with them. I think it's now like this is his house and she has her house, so we can come. And this was your house prior to her, so I'm sure they were coming over then. So if she either moves in there or if you guys go get a home together, hopefully they will respect that place. And if not, then that's where the husband kind of has to put his foot down so that
set the boundary.
Conflict,
Okay, so that leads us to the next thing. Here in Florida, there's a thing called shacking up. That's illegal. It's actually illegal in the state of Florida. It's not recognized.
Yeah,
it's not recognized. It's called shacking up. So my question is, what are your thoughts on living together? A lot of people, in the past, they were like, no, absolutely not. We move in. It has to be fresh. But I feel like over the last 20, 30 years, people are like, well, I'm not marrying you unless I live with you. I have to see what it's like daily. I have to see what it's like every day. I got to see if you squeeze the toothpaste from the bottom or do you roll it up. I want to see if you put the toilet paper flipped one side or do you flip it the other way. I want to see if you're dirty. I want to see if you're clean. You know what I'm saying? I got to see what you look like because it's very easy. Like when I have my girlfriend to visit, I turn into Cinderella about Thursday. About Thursday, I turn into Cinderella. I go clean the hairs off the bathroom sink that I usually leave when I shave. That little toilet, area is kind of, I'm like, the shower's cutting down. I'm folding my bed. I sleep. I'm so lazy as the best that I sleep on my top of my covers, right? So that I don't have to make my bed. I get up and I'm like, I just sleep on top of my covers. Get up. You don't ever have to make your bed. It's already made, right?
I'm going to start trying that. You're the second person that told me about that, though. I'm ready to get into that.
Laundry, shit like this stuff that I do. As there's things that I could wait on. I'll wait a couple. I'm not doing it. Like dishes. I'm the king of soaking spoons and stuff in water with soap and just walking away for a day or two, like because I hate washing dishes. Laundry. I'm the king. I'm not folding my laundry. But it's like now when I know she's coming, it's like okay, you know what? I almost and it's been a while. We've been together a long time now, so it's not like this is not who I am. But I have to kind of like let me make sure I fold. Let me make sure I put stuff away. And it's funny because, I understand that. And I've been in this situation before where I knew somebody in a relationship, long distance, or, and then I moved in with them and I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're dirty. Oh, you don't do what? You don't know how to cook for yourself? I cook for myself. You don't know how to cook for yourself? Natural things that you don't know how to do. So I wanted to go over some of maybe like the pros and cons. What are some of the pros of living together that you see?
I think everything that you said is like you get to really see this person for who they are, because it's easy to put on a mask in front for a couple days, even you can clean up real quick before she comes over, but yeah, after 2-3 months that same energy won't be there. So I think it's good. You kind of really get to see what's what, and then even in that too, you can kind of start to mesh your lives and like create responsibilities and who does what and da 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 da. But then of course, as a woman, you always heard the like, why buy the cow if he can get the milk for free? So that's the downside, I think, to shacking up, is because now I'm in your house. You're getting all the benefits of me being your wife or your fiance. There's little motivation there to move forward. So that could be, I think, the curse, that perhaps maybe that part of it should wait until you're engaged. Maybe, I don't know.
I agree.
Shacking up, I think for one, people don't have the same set of what's the word? I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but they don't respect and value marriage the way maybe once upon a time we did, in the sense of like, once we're married, that's it. So I think it's wise to try to eliminate any obstacles that might come in the way beforehand, because now people are like, oh, I'm not happy, I'm out of here because she doesn't fold laundry right away or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whereas I feel back in the day that would not have been an issue. So now we kind of got to eliminate all the barriers to entry, eliminate all the things the conflicts that could possibly come up, and just really take time to get to know a person outside of an occasional, couple of hours.
Yeah, it's crazy because it could be something as simple as, like, for instance, I was in a house, it was a huge house. It was big, but I've always been the type, like, for instance, we had a housekeeper, and I didn't want her cleaning my private area, which was my bedroom, like where my things are, my intimate things are, some of my paper. I didn't want her going in there. And, right. And the person that I was with, they wanted everything clean because they didn't want to do anything. Oh, I don't want to do anything, babe. Let's have them do it. I was like, okay, but and now here's the thing. I go into my area and I clean it my way. And obviously I'm not a professional. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it's not up to par. But these are the small things that people don't see prior to moving in together. It's very simple. Are you a night owl? Do you go to sleep late watching TV, right? And I go to sleep early. A lot of times people go into relationships and they have this fantasy where we go to sleep at the same time. Oh, you go to bed. I'm tired too. And we go to bed together. And in the beginning, that's how it is. It's beautiful because it's all cuddly and whatever. But then after maybe a year or 2-3 years, you're like, no, I got this program I watch at 11 and she's knocked out by 10:30. You know what I mean? Right. And that's one of the disparities. And you find, again, the distribution of household chores, let's say. A lot of times men, we do the chores that require, let's say, like a weekly approach, the yard, or daily, like garbage, things like that. And women tend to gravitate things that are daily, like every day, like, certain chores or whatever. And I think that
picking up socks.
I think that when men and women get together and they live together, you get to see the guy, like, you'll see something on the floor, he'll see it. And he's so used to his mother picking it up that he won't walk over and pick it up. And the girl's looking at him like, I'm not your mother. And a lot of fights start in that direction.
Levels of messiness. Like, I have to admit, I am a self-proclaimed clutter, like not even clutter, like, I throw my shoes down, I'll leave piles of laundry sometimes for days and days. And that I had an issue with the previous relationship because of that. And it wasn't even that I was expecting someone to do it for me. I was fine with it being there. Like, I'll get to it eventually. Whereas some people, that sock is like, oh my God, there's a sock on the floor. As I get older, now I have kids. Like, now I get it, because it's like, okay, it can be uncomfortable living in a mess if you're not a messy person, especially if it's not your mess. So that's where even the compromise comes in. Like, it's just a sock, like I remember my thing with him was like, okay, nobody's gonna die, relax. And that just became a thing in our relationship. Like, I know nobody died, but could you please do this, or could you please do that? And it caused a lot of conflict with us. So I'm glad that we had that time together, because God forbid, had we gotten married and then went into that, it would have been a whole shit show. But it's important. You got to see how a person lives. Yeah. And why? Okay. So you're not cleaning up this stuff because you're waiting for your mama to pick it up, you're waiting for me to pick it up, or do you really literally just not see it? And then now we can figure out, the route to take for correction.
Yeah, that opens up a whole nother box. It's like you have men that moved. Like, I'm a believer that if a woman is going to date a man and they're going to move in together, he cannot. It's not that it cannot, because there's some men that can transition because they were raised in a certain way. But I don't believe it's ideal for a man to leave his house with his mother to live with you. You know what I'm saying? If you're in a long-term relationship, I believe a man should live by himself even if it's for a short period of time, a year, you know what I mean? To really get to know and see what his real habits are, who he is, and it makes the transition to moving in with a woman easier, because now you can say, hey, look, this is who I am. This is what I do, as opposed to you come home and you're like, where's my lunch? And she's looking at you. I just got off of work too. And you're like, but my mom always made me lunch. And you start comparing her to your mother,
right.
And a lot of men gravitate to women that remind them of their mother, but it's a different time. Even our mothers, they were still in that transition where they worked, but they were still in that housewife mode, And now a lot of women are
some bullshit that is, because
they took the housewife out of it. I don't cook, I don't clean, all that stuff out of it. And now it's like, I'm a career woman. And some guys, like I said, if they were caught in that transition with their mother that took care of a lot of these things, for instance, laundry, they run out of underwear and you're like, why aren't you washing your? Oh, and they're looking at you like, but I thought, you know what I mean? Because their mother always looked and saw the hamper full, just grabbed it. Oh, he's just gonna, and they took it and washed it, And there's a lot of transition.
Moms, like, no, that's not. You have to definitely teach, your son to rely on himself. And I think men, with regards to that stuff specifically, have to get a little bit more in reality. And that was one of the things that I told my partner at the time. It was like, listen, first of all, that's not innately in me. I'm a little bit of a messy person, so whatever. But if that's what you want, we can discuss that. But you can't expect that I'm going to be contributing to the household bills and all that stuff in the same way. And I still have to be responsible for all of this, because, again, back in the day, a lot of those women did not work. Or, if they went out to work, it was a little ancillary job, maybe part-time, and they were a homemaker, because daycare wasn't, $800 a week and all these other expenses. So that was always our beef. It was like, I'm not going to be that person for you. If I have to go work full time and I got to pay half of the bills and I got to do this and I got to do that, so then what's left for you?
But here's the reality. That is what ideally men should think, right? But we can deal in ideal, or we can deal in reality. The reality it is, men are looking for women that have when men are more concerned with A, which is the person that creates a home, than B, the one that provides. They don't really care. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. The business of the house is primary, all that stuff. But for a man, you know what I mean? We're looking for a woman to make our house a home.
I get that. But then it's also about creating the space for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have, a friend who talks about how her mother did both, but her mother was mad and angry all the time. So, what do you really want? And I think I get that. Like, if you want that from your woman, then you need to create the space for her to be able to provide that for you without having to work 40 hours. If I have to go to work so that we can pay these bills, so that we can pay for daycare or whatever, then you have to adjust your thinking so that we can.
The problem with that is it creates a cycle, right? Because it almost becomes a situation where it becomes a cycle where, oh, you're not going to do what I deem a woman's responsibility is. Oh, okay, so then don't ask me to do. And it's petty, and it's not supposed to be like that, because these things are supposed to come naturally when you're in love and when you're in a good family atmosphere and a good relationship. And you don't want that. So I always tell people, I'm like, when I wrote my book, I talked about that. I said, what you don't realize is, see, what men do is men will do something that's, let's say, a daily chore, like, or something like dishes. They'll do the dishes and clean the kitchen, and then they expect a pat on the back from their wife. Look, I did it. And they want some sex, and they want all that stuff, right? And they're like, why am I not getting the reward? How come she's not overly happy? How come we're not in the bedroom? And what they don't realize is that already the distribution of
Was off. So she's over there
chores
like,
is all.
"Now
It's,
you did something
yeah, it's
without
already. She's looking at you
right?"
like, well, I was doing 80, you were doing 20. Okay, thank you for doing 40 now, and I still do 60. It's not
Right.
really whatever. So
And 60 today, not every day too. So that's the other thing. It's like, okay, you did the dishes
yeah,
today. Appreciate it. Thank
today,
you.
and that's what
Right.
I try to tell people. I'm trying to tell men. I'm like, what you need to do is you need to study the situation. And okay, I'm not a dishwasher. I hate washing dishes.
Me too.
Unfortunately, my mom, it's a misogynistic thing. My mom raised me, men don't wash dishes. Oh, my son washing dishes, and it engraved in me. I will not deny it. That's why dishes sit there, and I'm like, whatever. But,
Where's the woman? Yeah.
right, but with that said, I've learned that I look at the situation, the totality of the situation, and I see what she puts in, and I say, okay, this is how I'm going to match it. You know what I mean? And what I do is I go above and beyond to make sure that she's not overwhelmed with what she has to do, that it's very even as far as, and yeah, they say love doesn't keep score. No, there's times where it needs to. It needs to keep score, because you need to know that if she went, did the laundry, washed the dishes, and cleaned up, make sure that the bedroom, the bathroom, the garbage is thrown. Make sure you do your part. And these are the things, like when you move in together, that maybe they don't start off that way, but they can turn into that, where it's like through conversation, good communication, you could be like, okay, look, man, I'm overwhelmed. I feel like when I get to the front door, instead of feeling like I'm in my sanctuary, I feel like I'm working another 8-hour shift, because you're a
Right.
mess, you know? And if
Well,
you do it,
so like
right, good.
love doesn't keep score. I'll take it one step further. In the words of the great Tina Turner, what's love got to do with it? And I think that's where people get confused, because marriage, it's a partnership. Marriage is not about love. When you are 15, 16, 22, even before you're having a home, it's all about the love and the feels and the da-da-da. But when it's like, hey, we're going to build a life together, we're going to create a home, we're going to bring people into the world that we now have to care for. Honestly, all that love shit out the window. It has nothing to do with nothing, because you can love somebody with all of your ounce of being, but if it's ingrained in you that men don't wash dishes, you're not going to wash. This is when logic needs to come into play. Like, you know what? I've grown up learning that men don't wash dishes, but like you said, you look around and you see the distribution of labor is not quite fair. Okay, let me logically make it make sense because I love her. But it's outside of that. Like, love doesn't hold a household together. It'll help us maybe push through the difficult times, but if we can organize, it's a business almost running a home. You have to keep the lights on, you got to keep food in the refrigerator, you got to keep it clean, you got to get kids off to school. Love has nothing to do with any of that. We do those things and we stay doing them together because we love each other, but love doesn't create the structure that is necessary to run a household and create an agreement on who's going to handle which responsibilities.
Okay, so I'm going to dissect what you just said, because I agree with half of it, but I don't agree with the statement that what love has to do with it. Love has everything to do with it, because if there's no love, there's no reason for me to stay. The
Yes,
reason
there
I
is.
agree,
We got a whole
no,
home. We've had
that
children.
means
Just
nothing.
creating a
Listen,
legacy. You
means
don't.
nothing.
People do that all day without love for years.
I'm chasing happiness. The love is part of my happiness. I'm chasing happiness. No, in my opinion, I look at it and I see what you say. I will only agree to those terms and conditions if you love me. You don't love me? Cool, let me go. And yeah, we have children. Hey, you don't love me? It's all conditioned upon the fact. So what you're saying is when the high, which is the in love phase, the high, when it's all cuddles and beautiful, and I get that part. That's where, you know, but when things get rough and you have to organize the home and decisions have to be made, the underlying factor of all those decisions need to be based on love.
I think it's based more on respect, quite honestly, because you can love somebody and still not necessarily respect their role in your life. And love, I mean, maybe we're looking at love two different ways, because there's like the high love. I don't believe that love can be destroyed. If I love you, I love you, no matter whether it's day 1 or day 100. My mushy butterfly feelings might go away. And oftentimes in long-term relationships, they do go away. And there's points where it's like, do I even like this person? You know, and from there, I think it becomes a matter of respect for the person, respect for the life that you've created together, and some of that love. But it's not that like, oh, he makes me feel so good, because that ain't always gonna be there.
There's two different things though. The butterfly is the in love phase. That's in love. You swing in and out of that throughout relationships. So like my sister once told me, she was like, we've been together X amount of years. There was 2 years where I couldn't stand him. Like, why are you breathing? Why are you chewing like that? Oh my God. But there was always love. Yeah, but there's always love. Love is this underlying feeling. Did you eat? Are you healthy? Are you okay? Like there's this underlying feeling is love. So when we talk about you kind of put love when you said it as here, and then the business part here. And no, love to me is underneath, and the sub particles of love are the agreement to do the business, or the agreement to make things happen in the relationship, whatever. Because remember, love is an agreement. Like to be together long term is an agreement. It's a choice. And especially nowadays where it's so easy to just walk away, it's a choice. And you have to look at each other, and you have to look at them and say, I don't necessarily have to like you today, but do I love you? Okay, if I love you and we're willing, and a lot, and like the 5 love languages says, love is shown in so many different ways. This man is going, he's breaking his back to pay the mortgage. You know what I mean? It's not just a business transaction. It's because there's love here. I want to, whatever. And I don't feel like people can, I feel like respect is part of love. If I don't respect your position, I may not love you the way I'm saying in the true sense of the word. You know what I mean? I have to, that's all part of it. If I love you, I respect your position. I respect who you are. Because here's what happens. Like in the past, women have almost dumbed themselves down, right? Have dumbed themselves down because they're much better than men in a lot of areas. So they dumb themselves down so that their husband can now feel good about himself. So you know what she did? She put herself in a position, and he loves that person. I truly love that person. But who's that on? Is it on him or is it on her? It's on her because she brought herself. Why didn't she make him love her at the level that she's at? You know? And that's how the past works. Now you have women that are like, this is where I'm at. This is where you have to meet me. Do you love me here? And a man looks at her and says, it depends. Are you my piece? Because aside from all, that's why I don't agree about business, because a lot of times business only comes into play once I've taken you seriously. Before I take you seriously, all that business talk, all that resume like women like to put up is meaningless. It's meaningless. A guy will lie to you. A guy that wants to have sex with you will lie to you and make you feel like, yeah, because I really care that you have a degree. And again, we talked about this the other day. We were talking about that guy, Kevin Samuel. He'll lie to you and he'll talk to you about, oh yeah, because I need you to have aspirations. In that pussy getting phase, he's lying. He's absolutely lying to you. He has no care until a man cares for you and says, oh, I'm going to invest in this woman. Once I'm invested in her and I see a future, because now my elevation is connected to hers. You know what I'm saying? Until that happens, I don't give a shit. If you want to approach this relationship like a business, cool, fine. Do you come to my house, everything, whatever. But it's more like I need to feel a calm around you. I need to feel a peace around. I don't need to feel that when you come into my space, it's like, okay, now, this is how it's gonna be and whatever. It kind of almost has to look at her and be like, well, this is what I'm weak at. What are you good at? What are you weak at? Oh, okay, cool. Boom. So like, for instance, my girl hates doing laundry. Hates it. I love doing laundry. It's very easy for me. So like where she comes over here and dishes are a problem for me, it's like, It's not like I'm making it, oh, you do the dishes because I don't. It's like she knows that I'll do the dishes because eventually he's gonna get that laundry done and I don't want to touch it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's where more that business thing that you're talking about has to come across, like, I love you, you love me. I don't want to create any more stress in you. I want peace in your life because that's what I want in my life. So I'm going to approach this with all the love, tender, and care. Now, don't get me wrong. Life happens. You start to a lot of pressures come on, and that's why I was talking about it before. I want to see how a woman reacts to pressure, because the minute we hit a financial bump, I want to see how you react. Are you going to be flipping, panicking? Oh my God, da, da, da. There's a certain degree of anxiety that's going to happen, but are you going to turn on me? You know what I mean? Are you going to flip? Are we now going to be enemies, or are we going to come together as a team? Which one is it? These are things that I want to see, especially when we're living together. You know what I mean? Like, you have the way okay, so a lot of women, what they'll do is, because they work and because they have their own money, they say, I spend my money how I want to spend it. Right? Okay, cool. So then if I took that approach and the electricity wasn't paid, I would be looked at as if I wasn't a good provider. There's like almost like a double standard.
Catch 22.
Right. So I like to look at it and say, okay, you can do what you want with your money after this dollar amount. You know what I mean? After this dollar amount of contribution, do whatever you want, because it guarantees that both of us, because if we're going to do 50-50 home, then we're going to do 50-50 bills. Because if I'm doing 100% bills, oh, you're doing 100% home. You know what I mean? But it's funny because I'm not naturally like that.
Right?
What?
And then I can spend my money how I want, though, right?
No, you see, and that's where it goes, because now the conditions are the condition is not about money. The condition is now you pay for vacations and you make sure we have savings. See, women, you can't let a woman, that's not fair to be let off the hook. You know what I mean? If we're a unit, we're a unit.
I got to buy everything that takes care of the home. Even vacations, fine. We could say my money is going to be used for those ancillary expenses. Beyond that, as long as I handle that.
Right. No. That's what I'm saying. But it's not so much letting people off the hook. Like, you know what I mean? That's why we're talking about, to bring it all together, we're talking about business in a relationship. Yes, but I feel like love needs to be the underlying factor. That has to be the baseline in any business decision you make together. You know?
But it always is initially. And I just think love goes away. Love has its hills.
Love goes away.
Love goes away. Regular love. Like I said, I don't think it disappears, but the feeling of, because it could get to, like, I don't give a about them. Like, I love him. I don't want him to die, but
there you go. That's it. That's all you need. That's all you need.
It's not enough to be like, okay, I'm gonna go home and cook him dinner tonight, and
No.
That's why I say, like, Andy, that's what creates the household. But when that goes away, like, even because we haven't gotten to it yet, but when we talk about prenuptial agreements, love goes the fuck away. So relationships end because of stuff. So you know what I'm saying? I might still care for your well-being, but I really could care less about you. It could get to that point. And so what keeps those structures in place when that's gone? Or when I'm having a weak moment where I think it's gone, but we're really just in a little valley and it's going to get picked back up maybe in a year or two. Like,
you just said it. The valley is where mistakes are made. Okay. It's really easy to recognize the peak. The peak is easy to recognize. It's like, okay, I'm here. We're happy. We're good. Whatever. That's the valley. Is when I talk to men and when I'm like communicating and trying to coach them, the valley is where I coach, is where my coaching is done. Because the valley is where you take things personally, you internalize, resentment brews, and instead of taking what she says, this is the woman that you love, this is the woman that you've trusted, instead of taking that at and understanding where it's coming from or realizing her stress levels, what you do is you become petty, or you become angry, or you become resentful. And when that ego gets bruised, that's when men go on Facebook and search for that ex from college. That's when all of a sudden that email gets sent out to that girl that they talk to. Or that's when they go to work and make a remark to that cute coworker that's always flirting with them. And in that valley is where all the work is done. See, what I like to tell people is in my coaching, I work in that valley, right? Mm-hmm. But right below that valley is a line, and that's called toxicity. Okay? Toxicity is I won't go there. I leave that to the professionals, to therapists. But right. In that valley where people love each other, I say to a man, she's coming at you because she's stressed, she's going through it, the relationship isn't whatever. You could easily flip back out at her and snap and whatever. Or you could look at it and recognize where you are in the relationship and understand that there's external things causing this, right? Yeah. And what you can start doing is figure out ways by deconstructing and figure out how to get out of this valley, okay? Because she may be pissed because, like I said, she comes home and there's another 8 hours of work with the household, with the kids, whatever. She may be pissed because, she wanted to go on that big vacation and, the money's just not there and it's pissing her off because whatever, right? And I tell men, I'm like, listen, man, when you're in that valley, there's ways out of it, man. If, for instance, if you have a job, okay, and you bust your ass and you do what you need to do and you got money coming in, but it's just not cutting it, right? And she's looking at you stressed out. My man, it's not so much about the money as much as it is you're failing to provide safety and security as a man, and that's your job. And what she's looking at you and she's like, you don't see what I see? Why aren't you stressing like I'm stressing? And that's where a lot of the conflict comes in. And I tell them, I'm like, it's as simple as going to her with a plan, sitting down with her and saying, okay, look, this is where we're at. Because she wants to know that you're thinking just as much as she is about the problem. Unfortunately, she doesn't feel like you are not stressing, but thinking as much about the problem as she is. So or she feels like caring and thinking. What's going on? Yeah. Caring and thinking are interchangeable. Exactly. She doesn't, by not thinking, she means you're not caring like I care. And what you need to do is you need to independently, during those rough patches, take a step, even on a notepad, write some notes, and come to her with a full set of ideas. Not just spitballing stuff where you say something. It's like walking up to somebody, you know what, man, I think we should make $1 million. And the person's looking at you like, okay, so like, how, buddy? How? You know what I mean? And I think that you should fill in the how, where you've taken the steps to kind of feel, okay, this is what I plan on doing. Okay, look, I make $65,000 a year. It's not cutting it for us right now. But what I found is that if I do Amazon for 6 months and we don't touch that money and we put it here and we do this with it, and you go into detail, what you're literally doing is you're lifting that burden off of her, and not lifting it, but sharing it. So if it's 100-pound weight she feels like she's on, now you just took 50 pounds of that off her and you're carrying it. And that makes you feel a lot more comfortable. And now she's able to say, okay, he is thinking about this. Same thing with children. When there's a problem with the child and she approaches you about it, the last thing she wants to hear is, really? No, I don't think. No, she wants to be like you. The approach that she wants from a man is, oh yeah, I noticed that. And look, you know what I was thinking? Right away, you know what I was thinking. Or you know what I saw, or you know what I did about it. And when you're in those valleys, that's how you get out of them. Okay? There's things now, if you don't love her, guess what? That's when you walk into toxicity, because now you're doing things purposely.
Petty, right?
Fuck her. I don't care. Right? Whereas opposed to being in that valley, you could say, okay, breathe. She loves me. I see what she's saying. She's doing it. See, it's like I always say communication for a woman equals love. So if she's bitching and moaning, she loves you. And what you need to do in that valley is translate that and say, okay, she loves me because she's coming at me. But what is she trying to say? Okay, this is what she's saying. Let me take her feelings into account and let me figure this out. Too often, men, once the bitching starts, because of the way she's communicating, we're like, oh, hell no.
It's not really always communication. And I think that's the problem, too, is that I was a journalism major, and I had a professor that always said that communication occurs when one party receives the party as the other side intent. So if I am telling you I love you, but you hear, oh, I want your money, that's not communication. And I think some of the onus has to go on the women with that too. It's like, I'm bitching and bitching and bitching because you only make $60,000 a year. But like you said, what is the real issue? My real issue is that I don't feel secure because our bills, our mortgage could be behind, any minute or whatever. And so it's a mutual communication. And what I was saying earlier, where the what's love got to do with it, like, honestly, that communication should occur before we reach the valleys. Because it takes the goal obviously would to be the couple that can communicate in the lowest of lows and be, respectful of one another and be open-minded. But the reality is when you're in that space, it's a really kind of a flight or fight kind of a thing. You're really looking out for self-preservation. You're not totally in it. So if you can have the discussions before you reach a valley, at least when you go there, you can anticipate some of the things that might come up. You can't obviously predict the future, but you can create workability for when shit hits the fan. And even if that is, babe, you know what? When I come and talk to you, this is the kind of response I need. Even if it's as simple as that. It's not to say that like we know that little Johnny's going to break his leg in 10 months, so we got to save for that. But if I come to you and I'm like, yo, this little boy's wilding out here, like you said, let's pause, let's communicate versus like, yeah, whatever, you just talking again.
But here's what I found, right? I found that men are way more receptive than women give them credit for. You know what I'm saying? And it's all in the approach, because the men that have wives, right? There's different types of wives. The men that have wives, right? That I'm actually going back to a particular person I met. He has a wife where she gets pissed. She gets pissed and she flips, right? And that's when he reacts. Oh, but she's been telling you all along, slow buildup. All right, it's a slow buildup. And he's not taking a proactive approach. It's not until she snaps that he reacts. Okay, and then he goes into ultra super mode, and everything gets fixed. So she almost has to act like that.
To that point,
but
right?
I have another good friend where his wife walks up to him with a smile, rubs his back, and says, "But baby," and says something so gently, so sweet that he looks at her and goes, "Oh yeah, you're right." And he goes and does it right, and like his wheels start to turn right away. So I'm not saying one is better than the other. Depending on your partner, what gets them going, gets them snapping. My point is that
one is better than the other. We can agree on
that. My point is, once you're in the love, once you're in the down, in the low, in the valley, the totality relationship should have been working towards, so you should never stop working. That's why even in the peaks, when everything's good, you should never stop working, because with the work you do in the peaks are what help you get through the valleys. I was talking to a nurse today, and she was telling she's been married 37 years. And I was like, so, I always ask the same question. So what's the secret? And she goes, well, the first secret is I never disrespect my husband in front of anybody, and we don't argue in public. But once we close that door, I give him a piece of my mind. And I'm like, really? She goes, yes, because the most important thing in a relationship is respect. You know what I mean? So I've established, I know how I deal with respect. And so it's not that he told me don't yell at me or do whatever. It's just I know how I want. And he's the type of man that I could walk up to him in private, stroke his head, grab his hand, kiss him, and look at him and say, baby, this is what I need from you. This is what I need you to do. Or this is how you hurt me. 37 years. And she still looks at him and says, this is how you hurt me. This is what you did. And nothing hurts him more than hearing her say those words. It's like, oh shit. As opposed to if I yell at him in public and we argue, or we start arguing outside around the children, all of a sudden he's looking at me like, oh well, and it becomes something completely different. He doesn't give him the same reaction that he gives him behind closed doors. I want to touch on obviously we could talk on this for days, man. This is one of those subjects. But I wanted to talk about I was watching the show, and this guy, he has his own wealth. He has wealth. He's a young guy, just new wealth, establishing it. Has homes, some real estate, a couple of things going on. He meets a woman. She's like, yeah, I love you. She's gorgeous. I'll take you to the next level. We can move on. Da 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 da. And they're engaged. And he says, okay, cool. They're engaged for about a couple of weeks or whatever. And he finally is like, okay, here, look, I need you to sign this. It's a prenuptial agreement. She flips out. And they do a split screen. And in her screen, he doesn't trust me. What does he think of me? And she goes into her diatribe or whatever. And he looks at her and he said, and it bugged me out because I was like, oh, I never thought of it that way. He said, no, she took me to the next. She said she could take me to the next level. So she's entitled to everything from now to the next level. And I was like, oh, that's pretty serious. And he was dead serious. He's like, I love her. I love her with all my heart. So she's entitled to everything we earn from now to the next level that she can get me to. And I will look, if I ever comes to the point where I need to walk away, she can have it all if she gets me to a next level. Right. You know? And I was like, it left me in awe. And I always wondered, I was like, you know, I don't think I really have enough assets to have more like a will. I do have a will, but as far as like what do you call it? We kind of have our agreements on what she has, what I have, whatever. I guess maybe at one point she actually has more than me, so we might need one. But yeah, only because we're 40s. We're in our 40s. She did a lifetime of work and a lifetime of, you know, hard work and reaching certain levels in her dental field and all that stuff, where she's gotten to a certain level. I wasn't there for that. I didn't pay for dental school. I didn't do any of that, you know. And I look at her and I say to her, and when we talk and when we lay out our plans, I definitely put in my part of where we can go. I'm like, look, this is where we can go, and this is how I plan on getting there, because I was going to get there without you, you know. And she looks at me and she's like, oh, that's dope. And then she adds her part, and it almost doubles where we thought we can get to. And I said to myself, yeah, she ever come to me? Yeah, I would, absolutely. Like I said, she's a very well-off woman, you know what I mean, in her field, and super successful. And that's not why I'm here. I'm a person that you could talk in money, I talk in love. So you could have all the money in the world, I could be with you. And if we don't love each other, I could walk away, live out of my car, because I can't. Right. You know what I'm saying? So no problem. What are your thoughts?
You know, it's kind of like the shacking up thing. If you would have asked me 10 or 15 years ago, I used to always feel like a prenuptial agreement is planning for the demise of the relationship. And that's what I didn't like about them. And still to this day, I guess that's probably the only downside. But again, being an older woman and seeing people in relationships, again, the love goes away. And unfortunately, sometimes it goes away enough to the point where we decide that we're going to end this. And I don't care if you're 22, 42, 62, if you didn't earn or were not there for whatever wealth that person created, I don't feel like you're entitled to any of it, you know, especially depending on the length of the marriage. Like, and the beautiful thing about prenups is not, you know, ABC, XYZ. It's not set in stone. You can create the parameters that work for both of you. I agree. Like, if from now until the next 20 years we build, you know, a fucking empire of millions and millions of dollars, then yes, I want some of that. But if we break up in 2 years, you know, am I now entitled to the billions you had saved in the bank? And quite frankly, no. Even as a woman, I wouldn't expect that. And I think it's only fair. I think prenups can help to salvage was whatever left of the love and relationship if there's a divorce, because I think a lot of times just fighting over assets becomes this whole, you know, war, and just make the split easier.
You wasn't with me shooting in the gym.
I mean, it's real talk. It's real talk. And I mean, as much as I might love somebody, as a woman, I'm saying this, and not even with regards to my own assets, like, I wouldn't expect a man to be like, okay, here's a free for all. I mean, if he wants to, by all means, but
believe it or not, there's a lot of women out there that are like that. They're like, see, I'm okay. Let's make it a gray area, because it's really easy to say we've been together 2 years or we've been together 20 years. Let's say we've been together 7. Okay. 7 years, right? And let's say I started my business on my own, but it didn't take off until you came around. Do you feel differently if now I say, hey, look, I need a prenup? Mm-hmm. Is that because that's that gray area? I had my business, but let's say we were married and I got my first $10 million contract 2 years into our marriage.
An agreement now.
Yeah, no, I mean 2 years into our engagement, I got my first $2 million contract. Now we've been engaged for, let's say, 2 years. So you were there for the ascension, but you weren't there from when I established the groundwork. That's kind of like a great. What do you feel about a prenup there?
Again, within reason, you know what I'm saying? Like, you created a brand, you've created, maybe confidential information and whatever. Like, okay, you can have that. If
so
I
after 7 years, you don't feel like, well, you don't know me by now. Like, you don't trust me you don't see that we're gonna be together. I've ridden with you when you didn't. All you had was the business and no money. Like, you don't feel like that.
No, because. Again, I've seen too many people get divorces. I mean, I've seen people that's been together for 20, 30 years get divorces and hate each other's guts. So I don't have, again, 10 years ago, yeah, that would have been my thing. Like, you know me and I love you and you think I'm here for this. But I realized that even within myself, if I'm in love with somebody, I don't know how I could feel.
What about Dr. Dre and his wife? What about Dr. Dre and his wife?
She deserves a little something, but not half. What?
What does she deserve?
Here's my thing. It's like, if I've been with you for umpteen years, I'm used to a certain lifestyle. Let's talk about that. And I don't know what things have taken place within their marriage. I don't know what any of her goals or whatever were prior to that. But I've seen relationships where I'll even look at Ludacris and his wife. Like, from my understanding, she was in med school prior to them getting married. As far as I know, she's not still pursuing that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know why. I don't know if it was a discussion that they had, but if they were to get divorced, so I've put my entire life on hold, whether I agreed to, you really, really wanted me to, enforce me to, whatever it was, I did that. I've gotten used to a certain lifestyle. You want to go, you go, but like, come on, dog. I need to get my nails done every week still. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can't just.
Okay, so what was the contribution? What do you feel her contribution was?
See, I don't know. I don't really like commenting on celebrity relationships that I don't know.
No, personally. I'm saying, like, in that case where somebody has billions, she married him when he was already rich. What did she contribute that she deserves it? Why do you feel? I'm not saying yes or no. I'm asking, like, what did she do?
My thing is, like, you chose me to come into your life, and for 7, 10, 15, 20 years, be a part of your life, get accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And now we decide that it's over, especially if I have kids with you, like, come on. I deserve a little bit, not half, maybe not even 40%, but I definitely deserve to continue to live in a home that is comfortable, continue to have the furnishings and maybe I can't have
this is why I said that though. She asked like Jeff Bezos. I'll give you Jeff Bezos. He cheated and his wife wanted half, and she became the richest woman on earth. Did she deserve to become the richest woman on earth?
Did she deserve? Ooh, that one is a loaded one, because I was going to say, and I didn't add it into my last statement, was like, why are we splitting up? Did we just decide that the love was lost, or did somebody do something grimy? Because if I'm here in fairy tale la la land and I walk in on you and your mistress now, and now you want to divorce me because of that, like, pause. Like, yes, I would feel entitled to a greater lump sum just for my pain and suffering, quite honestly. But no, I mean, she's not entitled to it, but she was there from the beginning now. So she didn't come and marry him into wealth. Like, they've been together for a long time before Amazon was Amazon. So for that reason, and if it's infidelity, like, for all those reasons, I think she's entitled to a nice lump sum. Because a lot of times, because there's always a statement, like, behind every strong man is a woman. And let's be real, like, 90% of wealthy men are married, and they did not get married after the fact. They've been married when they were just shooting in the gym before they got drafted. So if I'm there with you building everything.
Wait, where'd you get that statistic?
I just threw it out there, but it's a large.
I don't believe it.
A lot of men, but if you look it up, successful men are statistically married more so than single men. That is facts. That is facts. I don't know the exact numbers, but you can look that up and you will see that it is facts. So marriage increases your possibility of becoming a wealthy man. A lot of these men were married while they were shooting in the gym. Well, now, was she there in the gym with them? No, but she was there washing your dirty ass socks and making sure you had something to eat afterwards. So let me get that. You know what I'm saying? And then you talk about a Jeff Bezos, we live in a corporate world. Okay, he might have been the face, but who are you coming home to every night and discussing business ideas and da-da-da.
And so that's where I agree. I agree because a lot of times you bounce your ideas off of that pillow talk has produced a lot of great ideas. And by pillow
Like, so
talk, I just mean
I'm
that.
one that's for you. Maybe we can discuss it on the next podcast. But no, it is overwhelmingly a majority of men that reach great levels of wealth are married before doing so. Not that they got wealthy and went and got them a little young
It's
Barbie
true
chick.
though. It's true though. You kind of want to it's almost like you look for that woman that's going to ride with you on the bus so that she can enjoy the limo. It's true. It's absolutely true.
And if I was on the bus, then I deserve a little something.
And then when you're on the limo, you pick a little young 25-year-old to ride the plane with you. Okay. Unfortunately.
That part. And
unfortunately, that's a lot of men do that. But nah, man, I think we touched on a lot of great points. I really enjoy this. This was being a good topic on the way back. I'm sure people are going to be really opinionated about some of the things I said, some of the things you said. I would love to hear the men's side of it. Love to hear the women's point of view and what they think about A, prenuptial agreements, B, living together prior to marriage, and C, what are your thoughts on how the length of an engagement and what things change, if any, between the dating life and finally getting married, that little gap of time we call engagement. Last but not least, if you like what you hear, you see, definitely click share, like it, and pass it on to the next person. Maybe they can gain something from it. Illy, what you got going on? What's been going on? How the kids, man? Are they back in school? How they hustling?
Everybody's in school. We're all just back to life as normal as we can be.
Little by little, man. Florida, it's as much as I will badmouth this and that. I'm starting to think almost like Florida might have got it right, despite the deaths. I'm not trying to disclaim the deaths, but compared to what New York and New Jersey are going through, California, Texas, it's like between New York, California, and Texas are the 1 through 10. Texas just doesn't. They just said, okay, no more masks.
Right.
They'll open everything. We're done. Am I motivated by thinking that's a little bit of a political move because of how bad they handled the storm and the electrical grid situation? Yeah, possibly. But I also don't think New York is handling it correctly. So I'm kind of in between. And when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, Florida might be in between. We might be where there's a group of people that are very socially responsible. They don't go to places. And there's the people that are like, COVID, never heard of her. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck it, they don't care. But, in the meantime, we got to stay healthy, do what you got to do. I'm on a new business venture. I took my drop in dimes and I've become an official relationship coach. I took a couple of certifications, so people behind the scenes, if they want to see what accreditations I have. But aside from that, I've taken, I've talked to a couple of people and they responded well. And in my first week, I've gained some clientele. And, I specialize in heartbreak. Number one, I like to talk to people through heartbreak and that situation. That's one. Number two, I want to talk about creating intimacy, communication with your spouse. But what I am not is I do not deal in toxicity, abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse. I don't go into those realms. But what I like to consider myself is a stopgap. So I find people that they won't make a major purchase because of shipping and handling. They won't make a trip to the gym because of that 15-minute gap. Oh, it's too far away. They won't cook a certain meal because it requires too many ingredients, too much stuff. I like to be the person that fills that gap and says, okay, come see me. Let's talk. And I will walk you to the door of therapy because if you deal with me, either you find that, okay, this wasn't such a hard fix. I could see what I did wrong. I could see what he did wrong. We can move on. Or it's, yeah, we're going to need a professional to sit down with and really lead us into a next level because the damage is really bad, Right. So with that said, I have my, I'm going to be posting videos and everything and my contacts, letting it out there. If you know anybody, if anybody watching this video knows anyone, they can contact me on the Dropping Dimes Facebook page through Messenger. They can contact me on WhatsApp at 973-413-9928. We can conference. I do one 15-minute free conference where I do an assessment. We talk. I have my the points that I want to hit with you and what your expectations could be. And then it would be $30 per hour. And you could do, if you bundle sessions, let's say 5 sessions, you can get them for 125. Like I said, I'm going to be putting out a calendar where people can call me or type in and I'll fill you in. Like I said, everything is confidential. I do not talk about to anybody or anything or write about anything that we talk about. It stays with me, whether it's friends, family, you name it. Doesn't matter what field you're in. Like I said, I have a doctor, I have a couple of nurses, I have a couple of different people in different fields. It does not matter. Come to me. Let's see what we can handle. And if we can't handle, we'll put you in the hands of a person that can. I'm also putting together a network of people that are professionals in the field as referral sources, whether if they specialize in postpartum depression, they specialize in marriage counseling, different things where they actually have their core specialty. And I'm developing a list. And if you're watching this and listening and you want to be added to that list, we could talk on the side and put you down on a referral list where I will send you people that I either can't deal with off the bat, or once I've got to a certain point and found out something, I can refer them to you and you could deal with them as far as, further therapy. Outside of that, it's been a pleasure like always. Hopefully I'll see you again next Thursday. I got a couple of this was a kind of like an easing from coming back, but I got a couple of really good ones that I think that either we might clash on, who knows, knowing you, the way you look at things, we might agree on, but hopefully, next Thursday we could drop it again. All right. Yo, look, have a great one. Enjoy. And Miss Illy, as always, thank you. And we are out of here.